The Quake is a natural disaster horror movie sequel. And this is the sequel to The Wave, but unfortunately I had actually never seen The Wave or owned The Wave, so we skip right into The Quake. So the plot is this man basically saves his family and a whole bunch of other people in The Wave, but in this one it really touches in on his trauma from that incident, as he is clearly screwed up after The Wave, and he's kind of paranoid about natural disasters, and he's kind of fixated on the people that he couldn't save or are still missing from the first movie. And just the beginning is just you kind of seeing his relationship with his family, as he's not with his wife anymore, he lives by himself. He has kind of this messed up relationship with his daughter, as he's just not ready to be a father because he's so screwed up in the head right now. He's basically undergoing a mental breakdown because he just experienced one of the most traumatic experiences of his life, which I thought was pretty interesting. Then it gets to this part where somebody that he used to admire and work with just recently died in this tunnel, and he goes to visit dude's house and kind of see what research dude was doing, and he sees that dude was doing research on these quakes, and that the quake data that guy has does not actually match up with like the official Quake Center of Norway. Well, through him just being smart and on top of paranoia, he tries to warn people and they don't want to listen. He tries to warn like the director that runs the official Quake Center. He doesn't want to listen, and unfortunately it's too late, as when his wife is working in this basic skyscraper, she's on the 34th floor, he has to go get her and rescue her before this earthquake hits. But as they're going down the elevator, earthquake hits, classic. And a turn of events, the daughter that was supposed to stay in the car didn't listen and ends up going to the 34th floor, and she doesn't get down and is stuck on this basically collapsing skyscraper. And just the rest of the movie is them trying to rescue the daughter. So with all that being said, my review for The Quake. Just a little tidbit before we get into the review, I'd like to ask the question on what do people think of disaster movies as being horror, as there's definitely some that definitely lean more towards the horror genre, and I feel like this is kind of that, even though there are some natural disaster movies that I wouldn't like super consider like horror movies, but I kind of just feel like in general that is a classification of horror, as it's literally just horrifying and it's disastrous. And in this movie, it really tugs on like your phobias. So like if you're scared of heights, this movie is gonna make you uneasy. And I don't know, just something about that and making you feel something is just what I would kind of put in the classification of horror, because it's an unsettling feeling. And we'll probably get into that more another day, but nonetheless, my review for Quake finally. So this movie was a little slow to start. It starts to speed up, but it does kind of suffer from the classic pacing issue. But the acting was really good. The production was really good. You didn't have to watch The Wave to enjoy this movie, so that was pretty good because I clearly hadn't seen it. And when the actual earthquake part of the movie does eventually happen, it is kind of like on the edge of your seat, and there's some parts in it that definitely dive more into the horror aspect, from lighting. And this movie, honestly, the whole movie kind of had this horror, gloomy look to the sky. I don't know if that's just Norway or if that was on purpose, but that's what I got from it. And honestly, I undersold how on the edge of your seat you are when the earthquake part happens. It is honestly an adrenaline rush, and it's just kind of pretty unsettling. And with that, my recommendation for the Quake, I would definitely recommend this movie, as when you do get to the earthquake part, it is crazy, but I would not highly recommend it because just the beginning, it took like an hour and like 10 minutes even to get to the earthquake, maybe even longer, and it just wasn't my style. Pacing, I tell everybody pacing, and I can only imagine how better this movie would have been if it was just way more earthquake shenanigans. But yeah, nonetheless, still just a great disaster movie. Still recommended.